Hello everybody and welcome back to the F1 2021 Mighty Career Mode with me, Dan, for the Canadian Grand Prix. Round 5 now, we've passed the first quarter mark. If you think I sound a little bit different today, yes, that is because I literally tested positive for COVID this morning. This video should have been finished last night, but instead I'm having to finish it on the day of the upload, as I was feeling too ill last night. The Radiant Racing team has since switched out the dodgy power unit which was run into the ground by Radiant Slothz at the Spanish Grand Prix, so I was hoping to be back on form, scoring points and finishing in the top 10. Don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell as well so you know when the next race is uploaded. And of course, make sure to comment down below what was your highlight of the Grand Prix as we get on to the starting grid order for Canada. And we've got Lewis Hamilton sat on pole position alongside Max Verstappen, the current championship leader. Behind them, Valtteri Bottas and Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Good qualifying for him. Sergio Perez lines up P5 alongside the other Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. And behind them, we have Radiant Slothz back into the top 10 alongside Daniel Ricciardo in 7th and 8th. And round out the top 10, we have Fernando Alonso and Pierre Gasly. Moving on into P11, we have the two Aston Martins of Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel. And behind them, we have Yuki Tsunoda in the other AlphaTauri and Esteban Ocon in the other Alpine. Once again, Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi line up 15th and 16th side by side. Then we have Zhou Guanyu and Mick Schumacher lining up nearer the back. Behind them, Nicholas Latifi and Nikita Mazepin alongside each other on the penultimate row of the grid. And finally, Lando Norris with a penalty and George Russell. And here we go on the starting grid of the Canadian Grand Prix. Hopefully none of the drivers catching COVID as well. And it's lights out and away we go as the timing board does some weird stuff there. Fernando Alonso not getting a split time. Radiant Slothz maintaining position. Gets around the outside, or is trying to get around the outside of Valtteri Bottas as they come around the first couple of corners. Up ahead, Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc causing a massive hold up there as they battle through the first of the chicanes. Still side by side as they come into the second chicane, giving opportunities to Valtteri Bottas and Radiant Slothz, and perhaps even Carlos Sainz to see if he could move his way up the rankings. Fernando Alonso also off to a good start. He's up 2 positions behind. Into the third chicane we go. Radiant Slothz still managing to keep with the front runners. Carlos Sainz looking very good now, coming down towards the hairpin. He's going to have a look up the inside. Radiant Slothz, he runs into the back of the Mercedes, holds the outside and gets the better traction out of the hairpin, able to stay ahead of the Ferrari as they power down this incredibly long straight towards the start-finish line. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton already broken away significantly thanks to that battle between Perez and Leclerc on the opening lap. They are very safe at the moment from any challenges behind them and will have their own battle up at the front. Radiant Slothz, meanwhile, still in 6th position and still behind the Mercedes. On board with the start, there's Carlos Sainz, the man he managed to get ahead of. The Ferrari not having the best of starts, and then Valtteri Bottas moving right across into Radiant Sloth's line. Doesn't get the chance or the traction to slide one around the outside though. There you can see just how much the battle between Leclerc and Perez were holding them up. This battle now 3 seconds behind the leaders. But they have broken away from Carlos Sainz and are safely outside of DRS range from him. So now they have formed their own little DRS pocket and will train around the circuit behind each other until at least one of them can make an overtake. Perez at the front, commanding the train, not able to come under threat from Charles Leclerc. The Ferrari just is not fast enough. And Radiant Slothz behind, helpless to do anything, as the Mercedes, which is already a faster car, being helped along by DRS, is not yielding to his pursuit. We rejoin a little bit later. Up ahead, Max Verstappen still in the lead, then Lewis Hamilton. Verstappen comes into the pits. Hamilton has stayed out. Perez stays out. In come Leclerc and Bottas. And Radiant Slothz will be desperately trying to catch up to Sergio Perez now, because if he can do that, he will still get DRS coming down the back straight. But when he potentially comes into the pits, or if he decides to stay out, that DRS capability will be crucial here. Lots of other cars coming into the pit lane behind. Radiant Slothz almost closing the gap to 1 second. It's teetering on the edge right now. Just dips under. Perez will not get DRS. Radiant Slothz also not getting DRS down this small stretch of straight with a bend in it. Radiant Slothz now comfortably, or is it? He is just about going to get DRS now as they go over the detection line. That is going to be crucial to maintain his position.
Box, box, box.
And they are going to bring him in on lap 8 to respond to Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc. And they come in. Oh, and Radiant Slothz up the inside of Sergio Perez into the pit lane. Apparently the stewards are fine with it. He absolutely demolished the speed limit sign, but no one seemed to care. Sergio Perez with an unsafe release ahead of Carlos Sainz there. Disgusting from the Red Bull team, allowing that to happen. And Radiant Slothz comes out 1 position ahead. That is up into P3 for him. At least it should be, once we see the Aston Martins of Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel, and also Esteban Ocon come into the pits of their stops. Sergio Perez, no doubt on the blower to the team, absolutely fuming with the result of that. He has closed up, though, in an attempt to angrily pass and wave profanities at Radiant Slothz. He looks up the inside of the hairpin. Radiant Slothz once again taking that outside line, gets a much better traction than the Red Bull out of the corner, and he's pulled up. He's slightly ahead now. Moves in front. Perez with the DRS takes a little bit of slipstream. Now back alongside, and they come into the final chicane, going past the Wall of Champions. Radiant Slothz able to hold the position against the Red Bull. The Alpine of Esteban Ocon in the way. Gets through in turn 1. Esteban Ocon now in Perez's way. This will be crucial for Radiant Slothz here in defending this podium. As we go on board, around the outside, there he is, the better traction. You can see immediately that burst of speed that he gets from the racing line. And Perez in the mirror draws level. We don't get to see the front of his wing appear on the edge of the screen. Radiant Slothz easily able to defend that. And then Ocon up ahead. This would have been very damaging for his race if he had to sit behind that Alpine for some of this lap. Crucial in catching the cars ahead. You could just see them. As we rejoin, Radiant Slothz has caught the train. Max Verstappen has retaken the lead. Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll getting in the way, costing Max Verstappen that lead that he had. You can see, well, Radiant Slothz was more than 3 seconds behind before the pit stop phase, given that he had a few cars in front of him. As Stroll comes in, Vettel stays out. He will block Sergio Perez at some point during this lap when he's caught. And Radiant Slothz comfortably in P3, just behind the two leaders, Hamilton and Verstappen. This could go down to the end. As we rejoin with 5 laps to go, look how close he is to the back of the Mercedes now. He's harassing Lewis Hamilton as they come down 2 tenths behind into the second chicane. First DRS zone of the lap. What will he be able to do down here into the first crucial braking zone at the end of the DRS straight? Nothing here, but he doesn't necessarily need to get the pass done here. The hairpin, another good opportunity to get past, although he may decide to take the DRS all the way down to turn 1, as he's so close to the back of the Mercedes that he can almost taste the fumes coming out of the back of the exhaust. As they run down now, comfortably in the slipstream, Max Verstappen probably scared out of his life. Hamilton close behind. Radiant Slothz close behind. Onto lap 15 they go, 4 laps to go. Will Radiant Slothz make a move down here into turn 1? He's going to look up the inside of Hamilton. He draws level as they come round turn 2. Radiant Slothz slightly ahead, but Hamilton's got the inside. They nearly touch wheels. Radiant Slothz gets ahead of the Mercedes. A triumphant moment for the Radiant Racing team, the new power unit which they installed for this weekend, doing absolute wonders for Radiant Slothz. The misery of the Spanish Grand Prix well and truly behind them. This was the onboard. Up the inside whilst they were level. Round the outside, Hamilton and Radiant Slothz nearly touching. And he's already passed before the chicane. He'll be very happy with that. As we rejoin them, there's still 3 laps to go at this point. Radiant Slothz still in pursuit of Max Verstappen. Hamilton, don't forget him, he is still within striking distance. Sergio Perez dropped further back. Continues his fight with Charles Leclerc and Valtteri Bottas. They will not be a threat to either of these drivers, nor Lewis Hamilton, as they come into the closing stages of this race. Radiant Slothz with a small lock up there into the hairpin, although given at this stage of the race, that's not surprising. DRS open, continues his pursuit. We have a look. It's likely going to be into turn 1, given his earlier moves. Gets a good run out of the final corner. He's closing the gap already as they pass onto the penultimate lap. And he looks up the inside of Verstappen. Verstappen's going to challenge it. He doesn't quite draw as level as he did with Hamilton. And now they're going to continue their battle round the turn 2 into turn 3 and 4. Verstappen is somewhere on the right-hand side, but we don't see him. Radiant Slothz gets ahead into the first chicane. Max Verstappen taking the worst line possible through there, was completely out of position. This was the onboard. A dive bomb up the inside doesn't quite put him in as great a position as he did earlier on with Hamilton. But he's able to use the traction of the racing line around the outside to give him a little bit of a boost, and going into the chicane gives plenty of space to Verstappen, but is not challenged. This was Verstappen's onboard. Verstappen already forced slightly off the racing line there as they exit the corner, giving him the slight disadvantage, and then takes a very tight line through the chicane, which is not optimal and has really slowed him down. Radiant Slothz will be under pressure now with 1 lap to go. DRS open for both Mercedes and Red Bull. He's gone defensive, coming over the start-finish line. Just 1 more minute of driving and he should be on the top step of that podium if he can keep Verstappen at bay. As he comes down, we've got a nice shot of the mirror there. You can see flashes of the Red Bull popping in and out. Radiant Slothz hugs the wall as he comes round towards chicane number 2. Taking as much curb as possible, just trying to get the best line he can. He's 8 tenths up on Verstappen nearly. That'll be crucial in these DRS zones, is trying to maintain a gap as high as possible. A small mistake there has cost him a few tenths. He's now down to 3.5 tenths as they come into the final DRS zone. Around the hairpin they go. He will need to use up every last bit of his battery and make sure that he gets the perfect traction out of the corner, which he may have done there. Just under 7 tenths ahead. Will it be enough? Verstappen also running low on battery juice. 3 tenths now, the gap to the leader. And Radiant Slothz is able to maintain the gap going into the final corner. He's accelerating away from the Red Bull. And there's the checkered flag for Radiant Slothz. He's had a massive accident to celebrate. Backs onto the circuit and nearly reverses into the pit lane. But that is a maiden victory for Radiant Racing. He picks up driver of the day as well. It couldn't have gone any better for Radiant Racing. Their first win in Formula 1, and it comes at the hand of their team owner and number 1 driver, Radiant Slothz. He celebrates with Max Verstappen. Cheers to the crowd. Lewis Hamilton ignores him, looking at his car. no doubt upset that he was not able to get past Verstappen in the closing stages of the race. And there he is, coming out onto the podium. I'm not sure if he's allowed to film up there. He will probably be fined £80 million by the FIA. And it also looked as though he was using a very old phone, which suggests that he might actually be spending his salary on the car instead of his own luxuries. Well, let's get on to the final results for this Canadian Grand Prix. Well, as we know already, Radiant Slothz picks up his first win for Radiant Racing and nearly got the fastest lap as well, just beaten by Lewis Hamilton by a few tenths. Behind the podium finishers were Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, Valtteri Bottas, Daniel Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly and Fernando Alonso. So as we take a look at the Drivers' Championship, 5 points separate the top 3 drivers after the 5th round of the 2021 season. Lewis Hamilton and Radiant Slothz also just over a win behind the leaders at the moment. Behind them we have Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, and tied for 9th and 10th we have Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly. Further down the order, in a tie for 11th, we have Yuki Tsunoda, Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll, with Kimi Räikkönen just 1 point behind them. Then it's Sebastian Vettel, George Russell and Fernando Alonso, making him the final point scorer after the Canadian Grand Prix. They are followed by Antonio Giovinazzi, Joe Granier, Mick Schumacher, Nicholas Latifi and Nikita Mazepin. And over in the Constructors, Red Bull maintain the lead ahead of Mercedes but are only 1 win ahead. Radiant Racing leapfrog up the table ahead of Ferrari and McLaren and have increased their buffer between the two teams. Then it's AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, Alpine, Alfa Romeo, Williams and finally Haas. We'll catch you in the next one.